Soundvault.
Hello, my lovely children, everywhere. This is Hetty bringing you another beautiful story from Tailwaves. If you like to sing, I am sure you will love today's story. It is full of musical, melodious magic. There is sadness, parting, friendship, heroic deeds, heavenly journeys, respect, love, joyous reunion, and fame. Today we welcome a most unique bird indeed, Diva, the world-famous operatic nightingale and mother of Aria, the main character in our tale. Diva has taken time out of her busy singing schedule to come and tell us the story about the sad loss and wonderful reunion with her beautiful daughter Aria. They now sing together all over the world. Welcome, Diva. It is a true pleasure to have you here.
Grazie. Thank you, Hetty. For me also. Aria is busy traveling and sends her apologies for her absence. But she sends her love to the children and their families. So now we will begin the story of my beautiful daughter, Aria, the operatic nightingale. High up in the boughs of a swaying, whispering silver birch tree, two nightingales sang a song of thanks to the beautiful moon. It was so pure, so plaintive, full of longing to search for the light of life. Such sweet small birds were they, but with singing voices that could be heard for miles and miles. The night was silent except for their song. The youngest of the nightingales, who was called Aria, was only a few weeks old, and after they had finished singing, she huddled into the other bird, her mother, and said, "Mamma, I am so cold. Can we return to the nest and rest a while?" "Of course, my precious one. For tomorrow I would like to take you on your first flight to the forest a few miles away," said her mother. The nest, which was fitted out finely with soft feathers and luscious, fresh leaves newly gathered that day, lay high above them near the top of the tree. Aria hopped onto her mother's back, wrapping her fragile wings around her body. With a gentle and cautious elevation, Mother Nightingale flew upwards until they came to perch on the side of the nest. Aria jumped carefully onto the fluttering feathers of white and immediately fell asleep. Mother, whose name was Diva, sat silently, watching for anything that might endanger the life of her birdling. For the night was full of evil predators, and already one of her birdlings had been carried away by Krako, the crowing, cowardly king of the crows. Krako was blacker than black, and even with the moonlight could not be seen, for so cunning a flight was he. Her birdling, a male, was called Skiki, and sang beautifully too. She pondered on his favourite song, and in her sadness heard it echoing through the rustling leaves. I hear you, Skiki, my dear heart. I will never forget you, and one day, when your sister Aria and I sing in the great city of Florence in Italy, we will sing every song for you, cried Diva. And in the distance, a plaintive, haunting song of a nightingale floated across the coolness of the night. With the arrival of the early morning sunlight, Diva looked lovingly at her pretty Aria, who lay sleeping still. She covered her with leaves to camouflage her, for they had little to eat, and she decided to fly a short way away to find food for her growing fledgling. Diva took to the sky, confident that Aria was now safe until her return. But it was not to be. Dangers hang heavy upon the helpless, no matter what time of day it may be. For a callous, cruel cuckoo called Woodcock fell upon Aria, who in a state of fear called out for her mother as she stirred from her slumber. "Mamma, mamma, help me!" Woodcock seized Aria by her claws, throwing her into the air and over the side of the nest. She fell down and down, miraculously missing the tree branches. But as she landed, she rolled over and over, ending up under a fern branch. Her wings were broken, and she chirped faintly, hoping that her mother would hear her. The cruel laughter of Woodcock echoed from Aria's nest. He shouted viciously, "Oh, weakling, this is my home now. Find your own. I can have any nest that I wish to take. Ha ha ha! Cuckoo!" Suddenly, Diva appeared from nowhere. She swooped down to her nest. "Out! Out, you vile robber!" She pecked and pecked at him. "Where is my birdling, my Aria? Scavenger, destroyer of life, where is she?" "Ha! Gone, carried away by the crows. Oh, have your smelly old nest back. I'll find another easily enough," laughed Woodcock. So, still laughing, but somewhat shaken, he circled menacingly around the nest and then vanished. Diva collapsed inside the nest. Her plumage was crumpled, and her heart was racing at the thought of a second attack. She raised her head to the sky. So blue and pure it was, so dangerous, but indescribably beautiful. The clouds floated softly westwards, oblivious of what had just happened. Her faith and strength taught to her by her operatic tenor father, Nadione Nightingale, stirred in her heart. "Oh, my papa," she thought. Aria was gone, her nest destroyed. There was no love or home here any more.
She must make a new life for herself. As she lifted her wings to start to make her long journey to Florence, she saw a precious grey feather from the breast of Aria. It lay alone in the corner of the nest, trembling. She picked it up, kissed it, and placed it between two feathers on her wing. Now she must sing for both Aria and Skiki. Oh, come, great western winds, carry me to my destiny, to Florence, to sing for the world. She soared, weeping every breath of her journey. Meanwhile, Aria, abandoned and heartbroken, had been chirping desperately, hoping that her mother would hear her. So, tired and wondering how she could fly or at least move with broken wings, she heard a mumbling voice behind her, snuffling about in the dried leaves. Are you in need of assistance? I may not be big, but I can push you, and my friend Humpy Hedgehog here also has a strong nose. It was the voice of a rather scruffy-looking vole. Oh, no, my dear Voltimus Vole. Being the resident Earth Doctor for this area, it is my considered opinion that this birdling has broken wings and must not be moved until they are healed. Aria, who was totally dumbstruck by what was happening around her, started to sob profusely. Oh, come now, little one. You're soaking me with your tears, and they are very salty. At least you're still alive. Now tell me, why do you weep so? Inquired the vole. Aria managed to lift herself onto her dainty feet. She saw that these two creatures were kind, knowledgeable, and helpful. Humpy was, of course, extremely prickly, but not by nature, and Voltimus had green, twinkly eyes which shone like emeralds. A cuckoo attacked our nest, threw me out, and my mother thinks I'm dead, and she's flown off to Florence. Oh, it's all too bad. Oh, woe is me. Oh, cried Aria. Now, we'll have less of that. First of all, we need to put supports on your wings. Then with time, they will heal. We can feed you, and we'll build you a little house under the tree yonder. Then we can take it in turns to watch over you, said Humpy kindly. And that's exactly what they did. You are so dear to me, Volley and Humpy. I could not have survived without you, said Aria tenderly. She looked rather strange with her wings tied to wooden twigs and sticking out, and they creaked and twanged most oddly. But the three of them had happy times. Now, Aria, tomorrow we will have to leave you alone for a few hours. We have an inspection meeting, and birds are not allowed to attend, especially nightingales, because they always sing too much, laughed Humpy. So, take care and stay hidden all of the time, warned Voltimus. That night, under the glow of the heavenly moon, they danced and ate like kings. How beautiful the stars were, displaying themselves in their finest silver glory. One of the stars fell at the feet of Aria, saying, "Sing, O tender nightingale, fill the air with your pure and melodious song, for music is the food of life. Thrill our hearts and fill them with love." "Bravo!" cheered Voltimus and Humpy, and Aria curtsied. "Good night," said Voltimus, going to bed. Good night, said Humphrey, yawning happily.
Good night, sang Arya, and to the moon, sleep tight. The moon winked at Arya and drew her cloak of darkness around her. The next morning, Voltimus and Humphrey left Arya sleeping, for singing has a habit of making one feel very sleepy. They looked back at Arya's house, a little worried, but hurrying on to their meeting, and with the rustling of the leaves under their feet, did not hear the gathering of Krako and his cowardly crows in the surrounding tree branches. Caw! Come, comrade crows, the fool lies alone here. I am tired of this incessant wailing to the moon at night. I worship darkness and unhappiness. This creature brings light. Ugh. It makes me want to choke on the very word. And as for happiness, she is the only surviving one in this forest. Out with her! Attack! The crows circled around Krako, cawing madly. Arya, who had woken by now, in her confusion and fear, ran out into the light. Attack, beasts! Attack! They flew at Arya, squawking and scratching. And just as Arya thought all was lost, out of the sky came a magnificent red kite, diving, twisting, striking the crows with its wings, strong, battling against evil, chasing the darkness away, beckoning the light of goodness and protection. This hero of the skies lifted Arya out of the frenzy of frantic madness, carrying her up and up through the bonding coolness of the wind and the healing warmth of the sun rays. Arya, in her puzzled, shocked state of consciousness, saw above her the folding gentleness of clouds, forming a soft white cushion, pure and tender. Fear not, you are safe now, birdling. Rest upon this heavenly bed. I am going to carry you upon it to the top of Peaceful Mountain, to the bird god, where you will at last be healed and all thoughts of dread and wickedness will be cleansed from your mind. Now rest. Arya thought that she could hear a distant choir of the sweetest angels' voices singing to welcome her arrival. There was a bright golden light surrounding the tip of the mountain, and upon it sat a noble and wondrous bird of white. It was huge, with wings that spread outwards across the sky. As the clouds drew closer to it, Arya could see that its eyes were small, but of an emerald green colour, and in them you could see the world. He spoke kindly and wisely. Come forth, birdling. You are welcome to Peaceful Mountain. Here all is goodness, calm and loving. My name is King Albatross. I am 300 years of age, and with each year of my life I have drawn much energy from the sun. Therefore, I am the only living bird that can fly around the world without having to stop. Come,
sit upon my wing and feel the energy flow through your body. I see your young life has been hard and cruelty has rained down upon you. Now, I will heal your broken wings so that you may continue your journey, fulfill your dreams, and heart willing, find your mother. Albatross opened his enormous beak, releasing a long, warm breath filled with the perfume of ancient flowers. Aria's wings felt strong again as Albatross blew his breath over them. The perfume of flowers emptied Aria's mind of any sadness that she had experienced in her past life. The supports on her wings fell away, and to her utter happiness, she found that she could lift them. She flapped them faster and faster, and Kite had to catch her as she slipped from the king's wings. "Steady, birdling, do not get too excited. You must save your energy for our long flight to Florence in Italy," cried Kitely, lifting her upwards. Aria's heart was bursting with joy to hear those words. She kiss-pecked Albatross on his beak, and with a determined spirit nodded to Kitely to say, "I am ready." The clouds hurried away, having fulfilled their purpose. "Farewell, Albatross. You have given me my life back. Thank you with all of my heart," shouted Aria, flying onwards with Kitely. "Go, sing, sing, sing for the world," cried Albatross. "I will be listening." Few words were spoken between these two newly found friends. Thoughts were enough, and expectation was high. Beneath them, life went on busily. Church bells rang out, car horns shouted at each other impatiently. The innocent and happy laughter of children danced on the wind currents, and rivers flowed on endlessly, adding a coolness to this frenzied tapestry. But Aria and Kitely flew on, greeting many birdlings on the way. Then Kitely cried out, "There is the Arno River! We must follow this, for we are now in Italy. See the wonderful orange colour of the rooftops. At last I can see the Duomo. This is Florence, my dear, dear Aria. There is a large gathering of people in front of the Duomo and much excitement. Let us rest for a while on a rooftop to see what is going on." They were both very tired as they gently landed on a roof overlooking the Duomo. People were applauding enthusiastically and looking up to the top of the building. There, perched with great dignity, was a bird, a nightingale. Its voice was clear, exquisite, and melodic. Aria's body shuddered with emotion. "Kitely, it is my mamma! Oh, my mamma! I must go to her." "Go to her then, my precious birdling. My work is done, but I will always be there, on the wind, in your dreams and in your songs. Now, go," said Kitely sadly. Their wings touched, and with one glorious swoop, he was gone. Across the square echoed the flower duet, the song which Arya and Diva would often sing together.
Mamma, I am here. Your Arya is here. I am coming, cried Arya. She lifted her wings and flew over and up into the open embrace of her mother. Reunited in love, reunited in music. The crowds roared in celebration of these two unique and amazing singers. And they did give their voices to the world. But most of all, they were never to be parted again. And high above the hills, a lonely kite circled majestically, exclaiming, I will always love you, my wonderful songstress. Oh, what a magnificent musical journey you have brought to our studio today, Diva. Opera is such a divine art form. As the great composer Richard Wagner described it, the complete artwork. Music, drama, movement, singing, and of course, one has to be fit and healthy, having lots of sleep and good food. You are absolutely right. You have done your research well, Hetty. Yes, but it's a little more than that. I'm passionate about opera, and it was going to be my career once upon a time. But, well, I gave it all up for love. Oh, darling, how romantic! But I do hope that you still sing sometimes. You must. I do when I can, and I have a wonderful pianist called Jonathan, who is so patient with me. Perhaps one day we will sing together, you and I. But now I must fly for my next performance of Tosca at La Scala in Milan. Arrivederci, Hetty. Ciao, Diva. Good luck, and grazie mille. Well, children, I hope you enjoyed that story. Our next story on Tail Waves will be a story called Floria, about a little flower girl. I just want to say to you, go out, sing whenever you can. Be happy when you sing. And most of all, as I always say to you, be good.
Soundvault.